Sweet boy. Gotta get to work. I've got to get to work. No, I've got to get to work. We are living in like such a weird time of human existence where there's a good amount of us who are conscious and aware of what's happening, and can see it in like its rudimentary form, beyond the abstractions that society is basically of like, you know, businesses and corporations and taxes and rent, and that we like people who have lifted the veil can see what humans are just like at our most base level, which is just we're a bunch of animals, where I see humans and humanity as like an ant farm. I am one of the ants as well, and I'm still coping with that idea. But, you know, without all the bells and whistles of like language and ego, we are just a bunch of ants, really, cosmic ants. Um, and or aliens. I haven't landed on which one is more likely. But the idea that I'm saying is like we are species of animals, different but not so different from my little tiny cat Monroe, who have been placed, you know, in circumstances on a planet, have then adapted that planet to our convenience, have built different societies based on like regional biological differences, which all of that makes sense. But now we're at a point, and it's capitalism, obviously, that just like is incongruent with human existence. I think most people who know what I'm talking about know that fact, that you can't get to where I'm at mentally with all of this without like accepting and understanding and like knowing that fact as an elementary thing to grasp. But I'm making this video about, specifically this video about capitalism, and I'm sorry if I'm stuttering. I don't really like editing videos. It takes a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time doing thinking and other things, so I'm not gonna edit it, and I'm really, really sorry about that. I think you could 2 times speed this if you so choose. But I'm making this video specifically today about my thoughts about the current job market, and we're like almost at late stage capitalism, and a lot of us think of late stage capitalism as like Blade Runner, Mad Max, Tank Girl is a really good one that I always refer to, especially right now with AI and data centers and our, I think I've read that we've like hit water, like bankruptcy, water no return. I'm sorry that I have no fucking futures. But so that the sci-fi apocalypse late stage capitalist media is definitely what we would normally go to for like our thought process of like what it is. But people are like, oh my god, like it's so boring what our late stage capitalism is. It's because we're not quite there yet. We're in the liminal stage of it. We're in transition of what once was, and we're really reminiscing on it right now, versus what it will be, which is AI. Techno-feudalism is the goal, I believe. Come on, kitty, no more. We're gonna leave the room now. There you go, my friend. There you are. No. But, yes, so, techno-feudalism is the goal from like obviously all these like oligarchs that we're living under right now, even like the stupid ones like Trump, like he's working with these tech giants, working with AI, open AI, all of this for like surveillance, basically for like worker optimization. And the only way to do that is through like hyper surveillance. And I mean, people who have been chronically online, like myself, for gosh, 23 years, almost 24 years. Like, I'm 31, and I would say I've literally, once I started going on the internet at 7, I never really got off. And I mean that in like the truest form. Like, I feel very connected, and in it, it's weird saying that because then I'm kind of personifying the internet in a way that I don't. I'm going to talk about in another video, the personification of things in our abstract culture, which has led us to this point of near techno-feudalism. We're like not quite there yet, but also I was talking to Michael about this. You can't really put Pandora back in the box, like it's already out. So this brings me to my next point about like the job market in this liminal space between what once was and late stage capitalism, i.e. techno-feudalism. This has been talked about. I'm not the first person to ever think these thoughts. Obviously, we share consciousness, so these are all things that have been thought before. I'm just building upon them, especially with my own lived experience of just the last 72 hours. So let me flash back a little bit further for some context. I have been in the workforce for going on 15 years now. I started when I was 16. I'm going to be 31 next month. I don't hate work. I've done everything that you could possibly think of for a 31-year-old. I've lived so many lives. I'm like emo Barbie. I've worked at carnivals and jewelry stores and restaurants and bars and theme parks and skateboard shops and flower shops. And I was a licensed health and annuity insurance agent. I've worked for real estate agents. I was a stripper. I was in porn. I have so much lived experience. I've gone to these marketing jobs that I'm going to tell you about. I have so much lived experience when it comes to the workforce and industries that people maybe have like never even considered working in. And I also have like been on Backdoor and like have seen like what these like entertainment industry like job listings are like as well. That's not what this video is about. This is about like the job listings that your average human has available to them today in 2026 America, what I'm calling like liminal stage capitalism. There's no real jobs anymore. So when people say there's no real middle class, it's because not only are things so expensive that it kind of evens the playing field. There's a South Park episode that talks about this, like the more money you make, the bigger your nut is. So you're not really making that much more money anyway. You're basically breaking even. One sec, I'm getting a phone call. That was one of the job listings giving me a call back asking why I left the Zoom interview so abruptly. So yeah, lived experience jobs. So currently a waitress. Just long story short, I could get into it in another video if anyone is interested, whoever's watching this. I've been chronically ill for the last decade, but I've still been working a myriad of different jobs in different industries, with the like tangent link being restaurant working and hospitality. Like I've worked in restaurants like congruently while working all these random jobs, because you could always make the most money in tipping industries right now, unless you are a CEO, basically. And that's the point that I'm getting to, is like there are no real jobs. We are in this liminal stage of capitalism where, because of the virtual reality that we are like kind of sort of like starting to live in fully via Zoom interviews, digital friends, FaceTimes, like no in-person stuff, AI, whatever. Like they could get away with just like pretending that it's a real job, and it's not a real job. Like mostly these direct marketing jobs is what I'm talking about. They have their website set up where it's a bunch of people between 20 to maybe even then in their 50 years old, smiling and business professional. I think that's a really important manipulative factor that these companies use. Um, Business professional. They're all smiling. They're all happy. They're in like office spaces. But if you look up these companies, they aren't actually leasing these offices. They're like renting them like month to month. A lot of them aren't accredited. And even if they are, they're putting these listings out and doing these interviews and basically taking you for a fool, asking you all these questions for listings that say their salary, but then they tell you you have to come in business professional, go set up a table, and then ask for donations for other companies, and then that's how it works, whatever. And I've worked at one of these for a few days, and that's how I know now all these interviews that I've been getting are not real because I've experienced it already. And the getting dressed in business professional just to give them like merch to change into to stand at a table is especially manipulative because you have humans who are wanting that next stage of their life that we see depicted to us in America, which is, okay, I need to get a real job, not in hospitality, not in service, where I wear a business suit and I have a salary and I have benefits and blah, blah, blah. And so they're like pretending to be these jobs, but they're not actually these jobs. They are no better than working at a McDonald's. At least McDonald's is a legitimate corporation with insurances and paychecks, and they're not lying about what they are. They're like, you will flip burgers, you will make this an hour, period. I just don't like the lying, and I think that is like the understanding, like philosophically, that lying for that is just incredibly wrong. Lying under any circumstance morally is wrong, right? But like lying, and a lot of these people who are lying in interviews to like hire people are people who are like me, who were looking for a better job a few months ago and are now in that second stage of these companies where they're recruiting and building leadership skills by building people's hopes up and lying. And again, these are no better than the MLM companies that like sell products, direct marketing. They're all direct marketing. The point that I'm making is right now, this liminal stage of the workplace, like marketplace, is so weird because like there are no real jobs outside of slave labor. And I don't like using that because it's just not technically right, because like to be a slave, you are forced to work without pay against your will, which is not technically what is happening. You are applying, you're choosing to work there and like you're getting paid, but like if the pay is unaffordable, if you have no other options and these are the only things available, is it a choice? Just a question I am asking. Feel free to respond. But yeah, and so then I'm like, okay, I'm a server, right now, at a decently nice restaurant. But it's still just so physically demanding. I'm not leaving because of management. I'm not leaving because of my coworkers. I'm not even leaving because of money. And I said that in interviews. Like I need to be making more than what I'm making right now as a server. I'm leaving because it's very physically demanding. And so I'm thinking like I'm doing this physical labor for people who like seemingly have good jobs, who can seemingly afford to do this, but like what are they doing for work other than like your basic fundamental jobs like doctor, police officer, lawyer, waitress, post office worker? Like I feel like once you start adding all these extra words and abstracting it, you are making it not a real job. Like other than the ones that I listed, which I did also apply to the post office, by the way. I don't understand how people allowed this to get here. And I say I don't understand, but unfortunately, like when I think about human kind and humanity, like I do understand like humans are so inherently selfish that like if the fact that like a few hundred of us built this system for the rest of the billions of us to suffer so that their family lineage can survive, it's just really crazy to think about in non-abstract forms, like in simplified terms. So yeah, I was supposed to have another Zoom meeting at fucking 12:20, but it is a direct marketing one, so we're not going to do that. I do have an in-person interview at 3. That doesn't mean that it's a real job, unfortunately. That's the thing. That's the thing. What is going on? I had 5 interviews today alone, and none of them were real. And I listed, like, I have so many transferable skills: customer service, management, sales, so, like, such a natural sales ability. I'm personable. I could talk to anyone. I have pattern recognition where I could see links and break them down easily for consumers to understand. And I am seeing all of these, like, links and patterns between all these companies, and, like, these are, like, there are hundreds of them. There are hundreds of them, and none of them are real jobs. Thousands of listings. Ugh.
And my bills equal $9.70. I got paid $9.49, and my bills equal $9.74. So I literally work to pay my bills. I never have money for groceries, barely. Sometimes maybe $90 if I'm lucky. I'm gonna...
We're literally, like, a system that we're living in right now. It's obviously not sustainable, and it must come to an end because it's self-destructing. So what she just said, she could barely make money to afford groceries. And then what happens to the grocery stores, right? So you have to think about the next step. People, she's not alone. This has 400,000 likes almost. The user's name, just let me give her some credit. Oh my God. Of course it's this. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, beep, beep. Okay, whatever. What happens in the next link? People can't afford groceries. Hundreds of thousands of people can't afford groceries. I have to change my battery. Oh my God. First it overheated, then my battery. Ugh. Okay. You make a system where you force people, I have to use force under quotes. Okay, let me start over. You make a system. Maybe let's do visuals. Okay, so what happens when you have a society of people who are forced to pay money to live? It's kind of gross looking, but this is all people, right? This is us. This is me. This is you. This is everyone. This is the 99%, I should say. Because as we know, not everyone is in that bubble. There are other human beings, just like me and you, who bleed blood and shit and eat and breathe and all that stuff, who are not in that circle with us. They're up here. So we have 1%. Let's just put like 3 little dots. So we have these people who decided that all these people need to stay in these, and we have to pay money to live. So what happens when there's no money? And then you're putting them, they take all their money and they put it in businesses. So you take the 1% decided that all these people are going to take their money and put it in businesses. They don't get to keep it. It goes into businesses. But over time, 1% takes that money, goes to them, right? They want more. So we're getting all this money flowing out of businesses. And instead of flowing to this group of human beings, it's going up. It's not going that way, it's going up. So eventually, we're putting money out. Because we're also putting money, now we're not only working there for money, but we're putting money into these places. So like the grocery store worker has to buy groceries. Post office people send mail. I buy clothes. I've worked retail. I eat at restaurants. I'm a waitress. You know what I mean? Like, society works because our jobs are created to help other human beings. If your job doesn't have a benefit for a human being, it should not exist. unless it's benefiting animals or like the environment, which those entail benefit human beings because we coexist with those things. You get what I'm saying? So like a job that is a direct marketing thing for a business, another business where all your job is, and you're not getting paid very much to do it, is to get money from other human beings to eventually give to a business indirectly. That's not benefiting humans like at all. And a lot of these direct marketings will like put it under the guise of like you're working not like for nonprofits, like you're making a difference. Like no, they literally they just want you to get money for them. So anyway, back to the visuals. Okay. So we're putting money into store. We work at store. And then money doesn't really come out because the store's not paying that much. It's paying $10 an hour, 13, maybe 15, whatever. So then you have all these people who have no money and they have to go all the way out and look for more money elsewhere. But the only people who have money to give is us. That's what I'm saying by these are fake. Like if you go to these like direct marketing, sales, tipping, like everything comes from the 99%, comes from like the general population. I know I did not explain this like very well, but like do you get what I'm saying? Like the circle should circle, but because there's this break right here where it's going up to the 1%, ironically where it's folded down and hidden, all the money is leaving our circle of humans who work every day, who get up and work and sacrifice our bodies for the betterment of our other humans that we coexist with, aren't getting any of the money that we're putting into this circle. The circle, it starts with us, we have some, we earn it, right, through hard work, we put it in, goes back up. Okay, so we get some more, yay, I have money to go spend, okay, let me go out, we put it in, goes back up to 1%. Oh, okay, so let me work some more, right, let me get a job that maybe says it pays more. Oh no, I'm not really making that much money again, and all that money that I'm making is getting again put up to this thing. And it's just like all these companies exist because other humans are like, I want to leg up, I want to be a CEO, so I'm going to make a direct sales firm. And it just keeps happening, and it just keeps happening, and it just keeps happening, and like that's all that exists now. Can someone make like a real company, like a real job, and then like employ people at it? Because a big thing about why restaurants are so difficult to work in right now, I've worked in them for 14 years. They didn't just become hard. Like serving in and of itself, once you have that skill, like you can do it. And my restaurant, as far as restaurants go, is a very nice place to work. Like we have food runners, we have bussers, we have whatever. But it's still so physically demanding because like we are still understaffed. And we're understaffed because the job is just too physically demanding for the money that you're making. And yes, while I said I make an okay amount of money serving, it's because I bust my ass while I'm there. And I'm personable, and you make more money when you're personable as a server. People are tipping you. And that's the thing. This goes back to the circle. I'm only making the money that I make from other humans. I'm not making it from, I don't know, like, how to explain. It's not coming out of nowhere. Like it's coming from within the circle. But the thing is, I shouldn't have to be begging other working class people for money because like I said, no one has a real job right now. We're all struggling. So I'm begging other people who don't have money to give me money. And that's just not sustainable because eventually there will be no money left in the circle. At the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. There will be no money left in the circle. That circle is going to dry up because the 1% has a separate society, a separate circle that they're funneling their money into and circulating and recycling. Our circle, our 99% of humans, our society that biologically we're related to them, they're just taking and taking and taking and taking and putting it into their economy, their society's economy, completely separate from the economy that you and I are currently living in. Okay. I'm gonna have to get into the whole like abstraction of corporate entities and everything in another video. I hope what I said makes sense to someone, even just one person out there. Bye.